morning, Fantasy Focus family, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate, brought to you by the Original Hooters. And I am Sam Holt, joined as always by my co-host, Derek Tate. Derek, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic. It's actually in the 50s here in Cadillac, Michigan. Do you realize how exciting that is? I know that's not a common thing in, Los Angeles.
Wait, that's warm? That's warm?
Warm here, yes.
Oh, God. I was like, geez, I'm so sorry. That's freezing. It's going to be 82 today.
I'm just ready and juiced up. I mean, I sat down to make our wide receiver rankings, and I don't know about you, but there was like 5 or 6 times where I scribbled someone out. I'm like, I can't have this person here because I like this person more. But then there's this guy 5 spots down that I like. It was really tricky to nail it down to a top 20.
It's going to be difficult. I mean, honestly, I feel like the top 5 are kind of interchangeable and you can make arguments for a lot of them. So I feel like kind of similar to our running back rankings, so there's going to be different tiers. I feel like there's going to be a solid tier, and then it's just going to be kind of tiers of mush as far as where they land, because there's a lot of players that I'm looking at other rankings, obviously comparing notes, and I'm just like, I don't like this guy for whatever reason, and I am just making him plummet. And then there's other ones where I'm like, okay, I get the reason why they're here, but I still wouldn't take them there. So we're going to go back and forth, and obviously rankings are going to change as we build to the 2020 season, but I feel like this is a good starting point. You got to start somewhere, right? We just got to get excited.
You got to start somewhere, and I think we already know where I'm going with the number 1 ranking. I already spoiled it on Twitter, but I can't stop with the spoilers. I gotta build the tension. There may be somebody else at number 1 on my receiver rankings board, but when there really isn't.
Yeah, I posted a poll on Twitter this week, who was the top receiver for everyone, and it was a clear-cut landslide victory, and it went to Michael Thomas. I don't know for you if that was yours. I didn't see your spoiler tweet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it even had somebody created a GIF with him walking out of the smoke with a little flex, Yeah. I mean, Michael Thomas, I don't know how you can make a case for anybody else at number 1 this year, but I'd love to hear it if you have one.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, jump in the comments. We always jump in and answer everyone's questions, whoever comes in and joins us. We appreciate you guys for listening, tuning in, and, add us with questions on here, and we'll totally bring them up. If anyone else has a receiver or an argument for someone outside of Michael Thomas as number 1, please, you're more than welcome to jump in the comments and let us know, and we'll probably argue against you. But that's okay. That's what we're here for. We're debating. It makes it fun.
I love to argue strictly, even when it comes to food. This week, I know that you saw this tweet, but I was pretty pissed off when my fiance decided to go ahead and cook lasagna, but include no meat whatsoever. That, I think, to me, that's not lasagna if it doesn't have some sort of meat wrapped in the cheese and sauce and pasta. You gotta have the meat. I'm sorry, that ruined the entire experience for me.
I get it, but also just eat your veggies, Tate. It's gonna be okay. Just eat those veggies.
This isn't gonna be a thing. I do not want to eat my veggies, and I don't want to be told about it every week on this Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate.
I see Ryan jumping in the comments real quick with his number 1, who's Chris Godwin.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's Chris Gatlin.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a homer pick, maybe.
The Buccaneers are a little tough to rank.
And we're going to get all into where we have Godwin and Evans in our rankings. Obviously, with Tampa Bay having Brady at the helm kind of changes your rankings a little bit for most people. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that little aside. Always appreciate you. Love you. But let's jump into this top 5 real quick then. Because obviously we have Michael Thomas at the top. Who do you have for your 2 through 5?
So I think it's going to be the same 4 players for most folks.
Yeah.
I believe it's a mix-up between Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyreek Hill. I believe that's the next tier with Thomas at the top. So I've got Devontae Adams at 2, strictly because his situation didn't change. He is still the top dog, and they didn't even draft anyone to bring in any sort of significant competition to take away targets from him. So he's going to be the main guy that Rodgers relies on in the passing attack. As long as he's healthy, he's still going to put up a mad stat line, and I think he's almost a guarantee for double-digit touchdowns, which is like money in a standard format. But PPR, I still expect him to catch somewhere between 90 to 110 balls, do his normal 1,200 to 1,400 total yards through the air, type routine. So Adams is at number 2 for me. Julio, I've got slightly above D-Hop.
Really?
Yes. And speaking of floors, this guy catches about 90 balls for 1,400 yards every single damn season, it seems like. He came in just under 1,400 yards last year, and maybe age begins to be a little bit of a concern with ranking him this high.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt Ryan is still tossing him the rock. He's still, from what I saw last year, he's still a plus athlete, to say the least. Julio's still going to do Julio things. The reason I've got him above D-Hop, we just haven't seen DeAndre Hopkins yet in this Arizona offense. So do we feel comfortable saying exactly what his stat line is going to be, his projections? I mean, yeah, he's got all the talent in the world, but I just don't know what to expect stat line wise because we haven't seen him in this offense yet. We haven't seen him play with Kyler Murray. We expect big things, and that's why I have him at 4 because he's still an ultra talented wide receiver. But in a PPR format where I want a consistent floor, I just feel more comfortable with Julio Jones heading into the season than I do with D-Hop. And then I got Tyreek at 5. Look, Tyreek Hill's never caught 90-plus balls in a season. He doesn't need to be super effective. Obviously, he's the best home run threat in the National Football League. I'm just – on a given week, we just don't know who's going to be the guy there in Kansas City. It can be Mecole Hardman. It could be Travis Kelce. Hell, it could be sometimes Sammy Watkins. I mean, we just don't know. That's how explosive that offense is. It almost hurts him in a sense. So for that reason, I got him at 5.
Sure. Okay. I mean, all of those I think are sound arguments, and I get why you have them there, but I am much higher on DeAndre Hopkins than you are. And I think it's just out of the excitement of having him with someone like Kyler Murray and the volume of which he throws, and a player that's going to be eager to obviously make a stamp. And I believe that Hopkins is that kind of personality that's like, I'm here. This is my job. I'm going to try and, go crazy this season. So I feel like for that reason, that's why I've got him at 2. And then I've got Adams at 3, kind of the same things as you just said, though. No one's obviously taking away catches from Adams. So, he has to be top 3. He just has to. There's no one else that's going to be catching the balls really for the Packers. I mean, you've got a couple random guys to pick up the slack, but really it's Adams' job 100%. And then for me, I've got Tyreek Hill and then Julio Jones at 5. Now, the age thing you brought up is why I slotted him at 5. Tyreek Hill, obviously, like you said, he doesn't have necessarily the volume that everyone else has. He has the efficiency. And I feel like with the yards, obviously with the touchdowns, I think that's what keeps him at 4 for me. But yeah, I'm just much higher on Hopkins. I feel like it's going to be an amazing season for him.
D-Hop Anonymous. Damn you! You always pick him higher than I do. Anyway, saw a little Big Daddy reference in there. But there's nothing wrong with throwing D. I mean, again, these guys are very interchangeable. After Michael Thomas, I just don't see the argument that you can have for anybody other than Michael Thomas. In a PPR league, I mean, standard, then it gets a little bit trickier because his, 140 receptions don't mean shit. But in a PPR, just what he did last year without Drew Brees for 5 games, simply incredible.
Yeah. Will Jenkins joining us in the comments. Funchess is obviously the number 1. Will, I know how silly you are. You're not serious about that. I know for sure you don't mean it.
I just threw up in my mouth.
So graphic. Sorry. But yeah, okay, so this next tier, I guess we could call it 6 through 10. I mean, I struggle with because a couple of things. I know that I'm guessing we're going to get to Godwin and Evans here. Kind of, probably, I would assume. But I feel like I might end up dropping them a little bit because I'm just worried about the volume that they're going to have with Brady, just because he doesn't typically throw too much. So for me at 6, I've got Godwin, then Golladay, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, and then Allen Robinson wrapping out my top 10.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've got one of the Bucs receivers in the next 5 rankings. I mean, 6 through 10 even gets a little tricky at 6. And I've got Cooper Kupp. Like, didn't last year Cooper Kupp finish as a top 5 PPR wide receiver?
He did, I believe.
Question. So why don't we like him? What's changed?
I think it's just that people have lost confidence in Jared Goff and just their offense. I think that there's just a lot of things that are floating around in the atmosphere that are going around the Rams organization, and we're just questioning things. They bounced Gurley. That's something that really dug into a lot of people's hearts and maybe made him plummet in a lot of their rankings. But I think maybe also it's just volume and excitement about other players and their positions, which is what's dropped him.
Right. And that's sort of the argument that I'm trying to get at here, is because we saw a guy post 94 receptions, over 1,100 yards, and double-digit touchdown receptions. And guess what? He did this off of a season that he came off of a torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he tore up his knee the previous season. And they just traded away Brandon Cooks. I know they brought in Van Jefferson, and some people still believe in Josh Reynolds and whatever. But Cooper Kupp's going to be the focal point of this passing attack along with Robert Woods. And I mean, I even like Robert Woods at his price, but I'm so high on Cooper Kupp because it seems like every single season in the National Football League, this kid's gotten better and better and better. And he had a career year coming off of a torn ACL. So in a season where they do have a lot of change, what's the one consistent?
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp.
Absolutely. I mean, I think as we're going through these rankings, I mean, obviously I'm going to be moving tons of people around on mine just because it's still early and I'm allowed to. They're not hammered into stone. I can do what I want. But at the same time, I feel like, there's a lot of these off-season acquisitions and players that have moved that have just gotten people more excited. And I feel like that's completely valid to get excited about those new positionings and drop players like that. I mean, I thought for me, having Robinson at 10 was pretty high compared to a lot of other people where they have him. And I think that's just excitement about the quarterback shift there. And, Nick Foles, is he the best quarterback in the league? No. But is he more efficient than what they've seen? 100%. So I'm excited to see what Robinson's going to get out of Foles.
I'm actually more encouraged that Allen Robinson put up a top 10 PPR season with Mitchell Trubisky under center. I mean, so if you could do it with Mitchie T, who stumbled his way throughout the entire season in 2019 with very few high points, I think that Robinson proved that he is still one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. And when you tell me that a guy finishes 3rd in targets, 6th in receptions, and 13th in yards receiving at wide receiver, and that was with trash under center, what's going to change? I mean,
so, wait, where do you have Robinson in your rankings then?
I have A-Rob at 10. So let me go through the rest.
Okay, you have him at 10 too.
For me. Okay. So I've got Cooper Kupp at 6. Mm-hmm. Kenny Golladay, by the way, at 7. So we agree with Kenny Golladay.
That. Yeah, that's a solid. Yeah, it's funny that we agree on one thing here.
I know, right? But Golladay in particular, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about him because we obviously see eye to eye when it comes to him. But I thought he was great last year when Matthew Stafford was healthy.
Yeah, and I think that maybe it's a good thing that players are getting, in quotation marks, more time to rest up, given that they're not really allowed to fully practice together yet, take hits. Maybe that's just going to benefit Stafford. And I think that, a fully healthy Stafford is going to obviously boost him as much as you can imagine it would.
Right. So, I mean, just keep in mind, through 8 games last year with Stafford, 62 targets, 35 receptions, 4 100-yard games, and 7 touchdown receptions. So
like that.
That's why I'm so bullish on Kenny Golladay.
Yeah.
Godwin is the guy I have at 8 for the Buccaneers.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I mean, when's the last time we've seen an outside wide receiver be fantasy gold with Tom Brady under center? Look, I'm not saying he can't throw the ball outside the numbers. I'm not saying he can't push the ball down the field. I'm not saying that. I will say that his biggest strength at this point in his career is being able to identify matchups and get the ball out of his hands quickly, which tends to lend itself to shorter to intermediate throws and really highlighting slot type players, which is Julian Edelman. Mm-hmm. I mean, in PPR formats anyway. So I still think Mike Evans is going to have a decent year. I just have Chris Godwin as probably the guy that benefits more with Brady under center between those two players. I have him at 8. I have Amari Cooper at 9.
I have him at 9 too.
Yeah. So we don't. But does CeeDee Lamb scare you at all?
No, I think that because of consistency, and one thing that I feel like I'm just going to be beating the drum on this season is, players getting that rapport with their quarterbacks early, not happening this season. So I think rookies are already starting off like just on the wrong foot in that sense. Like they're not going to break out like they normally do around week 3 or 4. They're going to break out maybe more around like 7 and 8 just to get that consistency with their team. I do have CeeDee Lamb higher up in my rankings, probably more than most people, but I feel like we're not going to really talk about outside our top 30. So
I didn't have a receiver in my a rookie wide receiver in my top 30.
No, I don't either. But it's outside. It's just outside. He's just knocking on the door. But would I be surprised if he ended up top 20 this season? Probably not, because he's a crazy athletic talent. But I feel like it's going to be very late, and it's going to be skewed numbers that are going to be based on maybe 5 games towards the end of the season. That's going to push his overall rank up, I think, by the end. But again, just for this conversation, I'm not scared about what CeeDee Lamb's numbers are going to do to Amari Cooper. I'm just not. I feel like there's too many balls to go around with Dak Prescott slinging it that it's not going to hurt his volume.
One thing that we think that the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know how to feel about their defense. But I know that Dak Prescott can be a very productive fantasy quarterback under center because he did it last year. And you add CeeDee Lamb to that group of pass catchers. And I just think that Cooper is going to benefit from the fact that they have Michael Gallup and now CeeDee Lamb. So,
yeah.
He's still going to be boom or bust because some weeks it will be Lamb that eats, or it will be Gallup, or it will be Zeke just completely controlling the clock and grounding up over 100 yards on the ground. But Cooper's going to have his big games, and I think you're going to see enough of them to justify him inside the top 10.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. But I love that. So we both agree on Galladay at 7 and Cooper at 9. I have Robinson at 10. And did you have him at 10 too?
I have him at 10. We have 3 in common.
3 in common. Outside of Michael Thomas, we found things we agree on. That never happens.
I know.
But yeah, okay, so I gave my spiel on why I like Robinson there at 10. But do you share similar feelings then about what you expect out of Nick Foles?
It has nothing to do with Nick Foles. I'm more so whoever is under center.
It's better than Trubisky.
It's not. It has nothing to do with it being better than Trubisky. It's more so that I just believe in Robinson's going to produce with the targets he's going to get, regardless of whoever's throwing him the rock to start or finish the year. That's how good Robinson is, and I think that last year kind of proves and reminds everybody just how talented this kid really is.
Absolutely. I'm frowning right now because this next chunk of receivers, I'm not happy about where I have them. So I might move them around. I don't like this. I've got I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm not as high.
The vote of confidence right before you tell everybody, hey, this is where I have them ranked.
This is what I think, and I don't feel good about it. But yeah, I think I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, so moving him. All right, I've got Adam Thielen at 11. Consistency, if you want a player that's got good rapport with a quarterback, look no further than Thielen there. Do I feel like his volume is going to be the same? I feel like we've been seeing a slow drop in just the volume, but he was hurt most of last season. So I'm hoping for a healthy Thielen that will change his numbers there. I just got an ESPN notification, but it's random stuff. I don't really want to bring that up. That's not newsworthy. Anyways, sorry, okay. I got distracted. I see something shiny and I can't hold myself. What was I saying? Okay, I've got Adam Thielen, and now a player that is bouncing around that I'm not happy about, that I'm pushing down my rankings, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't like DJ Moore very much. And I think that maybe it's just because when I've had him on a Dynasty team before, he underwhelmed what I needed him for and then performed as soon as I traded him. So I think maybe it's just hurt feelings on my part, and that's why I'm not so high on him. But I just don't feel like he is better than the next players that I'm going to talk about. And I feel like the next ones are a healthy, don't call me a homer, Juju Smith-Schuster. Very excited about him and a comeback this season with a healthy Ben. Last year, I think we've talked about this before, Mike Tomlin deserved Coach of the Year because he put together wins out of nothing. nothing. Like, we did not have much going for us at all. Snake bitten is just too modest a term for what we were last year. So I'm excited for a new year, a new 2020 for us, and hopefully, fingers crossed, a healthy team all around. And when you have a healthy Juju and you have a healthy Ben, you have volume. So for me, that's why I have Juju there. And then I've got Cortland Sutton, Odell Beckham Jr., and then I'm going to put DJ Moore there because I just can't with him. I'm just not. Tell me why I should be more excited about DJ Moore if you have him higher than I do.
I don't have him higher than you do.
Hey, I don't know. I feel like so many people are so high on him, and I'm just like, why? Why are you going to take DJ Moore when you could have someone else at that spot?
Well, he's a talented player. So I mean, I get some of the love. I get it. I get some of the love.
I don't get it.
But here's the thing: is like everybody else has been shot by the Cupid arrow that is DJ Moore's fantasy value, and I just don't see it. Like I don't see that in the upside with Teddy Bridgewater under center now. Some will throw something at me in the comments saying, "Oh, well, Michael Thomas was still very productive with Teddy Bridgewater under center last year."
But it's Michael Thomas.
It was Michael Thomas, and you had Sean Payton game planning in what Teddy Bridgewater does. I don't know what the hell to expect. I almost said the F-bomb. I don't know what to expect. I know. It's like I almost right onto the mic. But
yeah.
So I don't know what to expect from this new regime, Matt Rule and company in Carolina, and couple that with Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, I just don't feel confident that this is going to improve his fantasy stock or make him any more consistent. I mean, he had a nice year, given that it was Kyle Allen under center for the majority of the year. I'll admit that. It's not that he's a bad player. I'm just not as high on him. I actually have Mike Evans at 11. And here's the problem with this. I don't feel confident. And this is where my rankings may change. You see the Bucs helmet in the background.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Bucs fan.
Yeah,
but I just don't know with Brady under center. I don't know if I feel confident that this offense is going to have two top 15 PPR wide receivers, even though they're two talented guys, incredibly talented. I just don't know if offense is going. They're definitely not going to lead the league again in passing yardage. That was a lot of that had to do with the fact that Jameis Winston spot the opposing team 7 to 14 points with turning the ball over 30 times in a season last year.
Yeah.
So are they going to be throwing the ball as much as they did last season? I don't think so, which means the fantasy numbers are going to drop a little bit. I mean, you also added, arguably the best tight end in the history of the National Football League, and Rob Gronkowski. I know he's been, off doing, professional wrestling and lost a lot of weight and spiking a lot of, watermelons, likely at, parties or some shit like that. He's been doing his own thing, been having a lot of fun. I get it, but he's still Gronk, and he's paired up with Brady, which means in the red zone, he's going to have your boy's eye. So I'm just saying there's not going to be enough balls to go around to really produce that many productive fantasy players. So Mike Evans is probably a little high at 11, but just out of respect, the guys talk about a floor. Dude's been great his entire NFL career. I actually agree with you though, Sam. Adam Thielen is a guy that I think is really slept on. And I get it. He's not similar to Cooper Kupp. He's not like a shiny new toy. He's not a sexy pick.
No, if anything, he's got a little bit of rust on them tires, but he's still someone who's just been consistent and, had that, that rapport with Cousins and, with Diggs out of there. I mean, obviously more targets could go to him. I think there's a lot of potential there. I talk about him like he's a fixer-upper. He's not a fixer-upper. He's fine. He's something that's just been forgotten. Real quickly, Nick Bird jumping in the comments. What up, Nick? I love some DJ. I think Teddy is going to be perfect for him. He'll be an absolute target monster with great yards after catch ability. I get that. I do. But I just want to see it first. I have trust issues. Nick, you know this. Everyone knows this. What up, Dread Ocean? Thanks for joining us. And we are in the middle of 10 through 15. We're circling these ranking numbers. So jump in if you disagree with either of us. As Tate and I don't always agree, but we always love to hear where you guys have people. And Ryan Levy is jumping in the comments. Guys, just to remind you, we have a mock draft tomorrow with the whole Fantasy Focus crew at noon Central Time. Is that what it is? Because I feel like it's 9 a.m. Pacific and I'm bad with math. So
I don't know. We've got a lot of different time zones working on here. I don't know why CST got brought into this. I mean, we have Pacific and we have Eastern. Stick to those, Levy. Otherwise, you're confusing the shit out of us.
It is difficult, but according to our group chat, we're starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow Pacific. So I set my alarm already. I need to. We're going to be doing this on Sleeper app. If you guys want to join us, please add us in the comments here or on Twitter, and we'll get you into our mock draft. And we'll be talking about our picks as we go. Again, the whole crew. I'm sure we'll have a weather report from Buckey. It'll be a fun time. So please join us for that. Back to this though. You were at 12 with Thielen?
Yeah, 12 with Thielen.
Okay.
I really think it's going to help him, one, if he can just stay healthy, but two, Stephon Diggs being out of town. I mean, I know they drafted Justin Jefferson in the first round, which
is helpful. I'm excited about him there.
I'm really excited about Justin Jefferson, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's the most productive wide receiver in 2020 as far as rookies go. But would you have a comment? I see you.
No, sorry. You realized
what's up?
So Ryan realized, sorry, I still work at CST. My bad. Dried Ocean saying you had one job. Love it.
Try not to confuse everybody.
Don't confuse our viewers.
Jesus.
We are grateful for every single one of them. Don't confuse them.
Oh, God. All right. So, but no. I mean, when I was talking about Thielen.
Justin Jefferson, yeah.
Justin Jefferson, I think he's a nice player. It's like we met, and I think he's very pro ready as far as even the system that he played in last season with LSU. But Thielen's going to see his targets. He saw his targets when Diggs was in town. Now Diggs is gone, and his competition for targets is a rookie. I mean, so Thielen should see a nice floor as far as volume goes, and I feel confident with that in a PPR format. 13, this is the mile-high fantasy mess because I love Courtland Sutton.
Yeah.
I think this kid can play. And I'm going, he's probably of my rankings so far, he's the one that makes probably people raise an eyebrow and go, really? Do you really have that much confidence in Drew Lock? To be honest with you, I don't know yet. But I know that Sutton is a baller.
I don't know, but what I do know is I like him.
I know I like Sutton. I know I really like Sutton. So for that reason, I've got him at 13 because if this offense is going to take the next step, I think Sutton is going to be the driving force in the passing attack. No offense to Jerry Jeudy or KJ Hamler or Noah Fant, Sutton's the guy. So if that's going to be, if this Broncos offense is going to be a thing, then it's going to be a thing because of Courtland Sutton. Yeah. 14 and 15 are probably going to piss some people off.
Sure.
I like it, though. T.Y. Hilton.
Really?
T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, why not?
I mean, I thought I was high on him at 22.
Well, keep in mind.
It's okay. Go for it. This is your argument.
So
this is your hill you're going to die on. I'm not going to have to save you.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. And I'm willing to go to bat for T.Y.
Go for it.
So keep in mind, it's not very long ago that T.Y. Hilton was actually a, top 10 PPR wide receiver with Andrew Luck under center. And you can make an argument that Phillip Rivers is on his last leg and he's washed up and all this stuff. But one thing I know is that Phillip Rivers likes to throw to veteran receivers and veteran receivers that can get open. And T.Y. Hilton can still get open. So, and he's really the one, true veteran wide receiver presence they have there right now. Sure. I mean, otherwise it's like Paris Campbell. And I know they just drafted Michael Pittman Jr., that is, because the Michael Pittman Sr., his biceps couldn't even fit in frame right here. But
oh my God, I know. That was crazy.
Jacked up dude. Former Buck. Well done. But yeah, I mean, T.Y. feels like he could be the safety blanket for P-Riv. And if that has fantasy value. So
it absolutely does. I just feel like that's really high.
It is high, given with, I mean, again, this is why it's going to piss some people off. But I mean, I see they got to produce something in the passing game. And I think they brought in Phillip Rivers for a reason. And the one guy I could see P. Riv gravitating towards and hitting the ground running with is T.Y. Hilton. And at 15, Tyler Boyd, because I don't think we're going to see A.J. Green with the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Now, here's the thing. If they work it out with A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd drops immediately. He's out of my top 15 if Green comes back.
Sure.
But I'm asking you, who's the number one guy there in Cincinnati if Tyler Boyd is, or if A.J. Green doesn't play?
Who's the number one guy if he doesn't play?
Yeah.
Probably Tyler Boyd.
Well, let me just put some perspective. Boyd last year, with a rotating quarterback situation and a dumpster fire of a team, saw 148 targets and 90 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
Over 1,000 yards receiving, 5 tutties, and that was with, Dalton, in and out of the lineup. Now, if you have a more productive offense and A.J. Green still in a contract squabble with one of the, cheapest front office organizations in the National Football League and the Cincinnati Bengals, then Boyd is going to see a ton of targets from Joe Burrow. And I feel a lot more confident in Joe Burrow being able to make your boy fantasy relevant than the likes of Andy Dalton. So for that reason, if A.J. Green doesn't play, I've got Tyler Boyd at 15.
I mean, I get it. I'm scratching my head a little. I don't like it, but I don't have to like it. They're your rankings that you're going to die on, and people are going to at you in the comments.
Keep saying die on. Like, stop saying I'm going to die. This is actually, if you're, I'm going to go ahead and make an argument or debate this. That if you,
I love this though.
I'm very happy.
I do tune in and out, but Dried Ocean jumping in the comments saying Joe Mixon is going to be getting most of the targets. I love that. He'll be a running back and a wide receiver. I love that, Dried Ocean.
Sure.
Absolutely.
If you feel good about Mixon.
If you feel good about Mixon. I feel like I'm warming up. It's taken me some time because, I'm not the biggest fan of that division's running backs outside of my own because I'm a little biased. But I'm allowed to be. I'm allowed to be biased.
You're allowed to be biased. So
we're all allowed to be.
Sorry, I'm suggesting Tyler Boyd at 15. That's too high for everybody. My bad.
So good.
So okay, I mean, we don't have to necessarily go through our the rest of our top 30, but I some names that weren't.
No, I mean, let's get through the rest of the top 20 because I want to talk about these next guys because I keep jumping them around. I think that outside of 20, it's all a big pile of mush. But like for me, I'm moving up Tyler Lockett, and I've got him at 16. I feel like you can't ignore how many targets he's going to get with that consistency from Russell Wilson. Like, he's just so consistent for him. So I feel like he has to be there at 16. And then I've got, I mean, it's not, I don't know that people are going to like it, but I've kind of dropped Keenan Allen in my rankings a little bit. I've got Lockett, and then I've got A.J. Brown, and then I've got Keenan Allen.
Woo. A.J. Brown at 17?
I'm bad at math. That might be 18. No, 17. Yeah, 17.
I say bad A.J. Brown. Anyway, I love A.J. Brown. He's a big play waiting to happen, but that Titans offense, I mean, Tannehill was so good last year. Do we believe in Tannehill?
I mean, I feel like I believe in them believing in their system that they've got going forward another year. I feel like this is going to be a draft where you got to have your rankings based on consistency from last season and just based on, previous player stats because they're not going to have that time to try new things. Right, so it's going to be a lot of last season's, play schemes that they're going to have to roll through just because they're not going to have the time. I mean, I could totally be wrong. Maybe he just disappears and is not a thing anymore and Tannehill's not the thing. Dried Ocean jumping in here saying Tannehill is the biggest question mark. Sure, I get the reason why. But I don't know. I just got to go with what was a thing last year.
A.J. Brown felt like he disappeared in the playoffs. Like, I get that he had a great finish and some big games and some huge games down the stretch of last year's regular season, which is what you're banking on. And you bank on his talent, too. I love his talent. Again, Tannehill is – do I think he's could finish as easily like a top 20 wide receiver? Absolutely. It was surprising because A.J. Brown is somebody that feels kind of volatile to me. I don't feel confident ranking in any particular place really in the top 20 because I'm like, damn it, I can make a case for a bunch of other players, Lockett being one of them. I think that Tyler Lockett's being slept on a little bit. I feel like there's a group of boring PPR wide receivers. This is where the tiers come into play.
Sure, okay.
There are a collection of boring ass PPR wide receivers that no one goes, oh man, that's an awesome pick. Oh, that's a sexy pick or whatever. Like, it's just like a ho-hum pick.
Sure.
But it's guys like, traditionally more so guys like Julian Edelman, Adam Thielen, T.Y. Hilton, Tyler Boyd, Tyler Lockett. I think that those guys, Robert Woods. By the way, Robert Woods.
I haven't brought him up yet. Yeah.
Those are like a handful of players. And Jarvis Landry, too. I mean, those are like a handful of PPR guys that no one wants to actually give any love to. But you feel like on draft day, when you have them and you can roll them in there as an option, you know they're going to produce as a flex option or low-end wide receiver 2 type player. And those are like a separate tier of their own because they don't represent the same upside that a lot of people love.
Yeah. Will Jenkins jumping in saying the Keenan Allen rank is fair, Sam. I mean, just look at who's throwing him the ball. I mean, that's the other thing for me with Keenan Allen is you've got a rookie quarterback that a lot of people have said, you've said that he lacks consistency and, just in his aiming and it's just all of that. Like, how can you get excited about someone that has those small issues?
Well, it's inconsistency as far as accuracy. It's inconsistency when it comes to mechanics, footwork, progressions, and then there's times where he sees ghosts. Like, he'll have a clean pocket, he'll have a clear read, and he'll just, for reasons unbeknownst, he'll just tuck the ball and try to take off and run. And it looks good because he's capable of doing that.
Sure. But how is that going to translate into the NFL?
Right. So that's what we don't know. And to harken back to my point on T.Y. Hilton being all the way up at 14 for me.
Yeah.
We look at Keenan Allen, and he's never been the guy that is the ultra athletic player, but he's the great route runner. He's the guy that you can rely on as far as his hands go and be able to win one-on-one matchups underneath and create separation, which that was what P. Riv wants. But with Tyrod Taylor under center, who's never been a marquee passer in the National Football League, and then you got Justin Herbert, who I think is a project under center, who's probably going to see the field this upcoming year. Yeah, Keenan Allen's at 20 for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And honestly, he's probably going to drop a bit for me in my rankings as well. Well, a couple of these guys are going to jump up a little bit higher. Next up in mine, I've got Cooper Kupp and then Robert Woods. I've got them bookended.
You've got them together. Okay.
I've got them together just because of the amount of volume and the amount of performance we saw out of Robert Woods last year. I know a lot of people are actually putting Woods higher than Kupp. I'm not going to be so ridiculous as to put him higher. I just, with that volume that Kupp gets, you just can't compete with that. But I do think that now that Cooks is gone, and obviously they've got to work up into their wide receiver 3 position, you don't have that easy spearheading top 3. It's going to be a more even split of targets. 50-50? No. I feel like it's still going to be I feel it's like 60-40 is not crazy. Like, that's not crazy to say.
Right, but here's the one caveat, because if you were to put up, a player A, player B graphic that I don't have right now, but if you were to put those up side by side and you didn't know which player was which as far as targets, yards, all and receptions go, they would look very similar. So what's the difference as far as their ranking goes on my end?
Sure.
A lot of the play calls from Sean McVay in the red zone for Cooper Kupp are primarily trying to go to Cooper Kupp. That's why. It seems like in the money zone, that's what McVay tries to dial up to get him the football. And that's really the biggest difference to me. I think there's going to be some touchdown variation, which is hard to predict, but I still think Kupp is going to be the better player because it seems like McVay likes to dial up plays in particular for him. But I'm a huge advocate on Robert Woods, even though I have him at 23 because there's a lot of high upside guys I want to get to. You mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster in your top 15. I've got him at 17. I've got Terry McLaurin at 16. I want to raise my hand. Did anybody forget that Terry McLaurin was absolutely fantastic with dog shit under center for a good majority of the
That's not his name.
He's the touchdown scoring Terry McLaurin, baby. I mean, he's not Scary Terry either. I don't want to hear that shit as far as that nickname. That's Terry Rozier in the NBA.
Can you do me a favor and just tell us how you really feel and just stop saying, yeah.
Sorry.
Just tell us how you really feel.
Sorry. That's my weekly rant. I got it out of my system. But McLaurin was productive regardless of whether it was Case Keenum or Dwayne Haskins. Sure, when it comes to McLaurin last season, there was a ton of up and down because it's the Washington Redskins and their offense. I mean, you just didn't know what to expect.
Sure.
I just argue that they could have had the chance. They had the chance to draft Tua Tagovailoa.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they? Clearly, I believe that either they're trying to tank for Trevor Lawrence next season, or they actually believe in this kid, Dwayne Haskins. And I think it's more so that they believe in Dwayne and they want to see exactly what he brings and how he progresses into his sophomore season.
Sure. I mean, I get that. I feel like for me, I have McLaurin a bit lower, but it's just out of, he obviously was great in a lot of, he was great for a lot of people last year. He was. I'm not going to deny that. But as far as just consistency and what to expect for this year, there's still, for me, a bit of a question mark with the Redskins. I still think, obviously, he's a great pick. You can get him in these later rounds. Great stash for the value. Great upside. Absolutely. But I think for me, I'm kind of rounding out these post-20 positions with Calvin Ridley. I've got T.Y. Hilton at 22. Then Stephon Diggs at 23. Super excited to see him with Josh Allen. Cannot be more excited for that matchup. And then I've got Metcalf really high because of just the volume that Wilson's going to be throwing at. I feel like you don't want to be the one that misses out on taking Metcalf.
Right. Have you said Odell Beckham Jr. yet?
I did. I said him earlier.
Oh, where do you have him, by the way?
I have him. I rewrote it. I have Juju at 12. I've got Cortland Sutton at 13, and I've got OBJ at 14.
See, I feel bad for having OBJ at 19. I
mean, I get it, though.
How many excuses are we going to make for this guy? I'm sick of him. I'm sick of him not producing on the football field, yet he gets all this love and publicity in the media.
Yeah.
His popularity is writing checks his body doesn't cash on the football field. So at this point in fantasy, I get that it was just a bad year for the Browns. And could they bounce back with Kevin Stefanski now calling the shots? And, now they have, they added 2 significant offensive linemen in the offseason at the tackle spots with Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin. So, on paper, again, here we are talking about the Browns on freaking paper. They should be able to produce. And apparently Odell came out and said, he had some sort of injury last year. Dude, it was one of the 2 times you've played a full 16-game season in your entire career, and you didn't look that good. So
no, he just looked frustrated. And right. I think that's the thing with him is because he's got this, extra personality, and that he's, a very animated person. I think a lot of people just assume and jump quickly to, there's problems in the locker room and all this stuff. He hates Baker Mayfield, whatever you can concoct out of someone just having a bad day or not making the pass or not making the catch and, missing the route, something like that. He can be mad about whatever he wants to be mad about, but, is this a question of where there's smoke, there's fire, or is it just that he's just not going to be seeing the volume that you want someone like Odell to get when you've got other options that Mayfield has? And I think that might be what it is the options that he has.
See, the problem with all that is that the volume, it felt like, was there last year. There was plenty of volume. And
opportunity, sure.
He finished top 10 in targets last year at the wide receiver spot. And did he produce as a top 10 wide receiver with all that talent? No. What the hell is missing? I'm sick of the excuses. It's like a put up or shut up type of year, and I'm not willing to invest the draft capital that's likely going to take to get him on my squad to find out the answer to that question.
No, yeah.
Is he a high upside guy? Sure, but I'm sick of the bullshit.
No, I agree, and I feel like it is. I am not taking him in any of my leagues. I'm trying not to. I don't know if I'm in a draft where I actually did take him. I've been in too many drafts lately, but I'm not looking to put him on my roster for that reason because of just the unpredictability. I mean, I still just feel like based on the talent and what should be, that's why I have him as high as I do, I guess. But for other players, I feel like there's better opportunity. Like I said, with Stephon Diggs, I just like him a lot this year. I think he's going to have a lot of volume with Josh Allen. So I'm super excited about him. Excited about DK Metcalf. I'm struggling with where to put Devontae Parker in my rankings.
Yeah, Parker's a tough one. I think Stephon Diggs is a little bit tough because John Brown was very good last year, and still there.
He's still there. Sure.
And it's not like Josh Allen is a premier passer in the National Football League. I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap because I think he's better than people give him credit for. But it should help that he's now got Stephon Diggs. Just John Brown isn't going to completely disappear. This team is still going to be based solely through running the football, though, I think.
And that's the other thing is it's going to be a run-first offense. It will be. So you have to have a cap on what volume you expect from those players. Nick Bird jumping in the comments. I agree OBJ is such an enigma. I feel like if he falls to the fourth, I may just take a shot, though.
It's hard not to. I mean, because
in the fourth, sure.
You see the talent, man. The talent is still there. And you got Baker Mayfield still there. I mean, it's like they should be good. But it wasn't last year.
No.
Why?
I don't know. It disappointed all of us. I think we were part of the hype train too last year. If I remember correctly, you and I were both super excited about this offense, all these weapons, the volume. There's going to be so many good fantasy value players here. And then we were all just like, what? That's what we got?
Yeah. It was someone pulling a Billy Madison and putting, setting a flaming bag of shit on my doorstep, which ended up being on my fantasy team, which is very disappointing.
Yeah, nobody likes that.
No. So I'll run through my 20 through 30 rankings.
Sure.
AJ Brown at 21, DJ Moore at 22. So those two, I love their talent. I love their after the catch abilities. It's just I don't know what I trust under center for both of those guys, so that's why they drop a little bit for me. Sure. Robert Woods really should be higher, but he's at 23 on my list because I see other high upside guys. Again, there should really be tiers to this type shit. You should split up your high upside receivers that's a little bit unknown with your PPR beats. That's how I feel about that. Hollywood Brown though, who was the quarterback that threw the most touchdown passes in the league last season? It was Lamar Jackson. Somebody's got to, you would think, somebody's got to emerge as his consistent number one option. And Hollywood Brown was dealing with an ankle injury for a good amount of the year last year. And we saw if you look closely, you could see how explosive this kid is. Mm-hmm. It's a game changer. Yeah. So, I mean, could he be a guy that I think sees his role significantly expand if he stays healthy? Yes. I have him at 24, Jarvis Landry at 25, DK Metcalf at 26, Stephon Diggs all the way back at 27, Devontae Parker all the way back at 28, Deebo Samuel all the way at 29. We haven't even brought up Deebo Samuel. And another guy we haven't even said yet, DJ Chark.
Yeah. But, I mean, I'm probably just low on DJ Chark because I'm just not excited about Minshew. I have to bring this up because the ranking kind of bring up this great question from Nick. So if you have Diggs and OBJ on the board in the fourth, who are you going with? I think I'd have to go with OBJ.
I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr.
I would too, and I think that's just based on where we have them. But that's not to say that if we're talking redraft PPR, I think that's where we're going. I think if we're talking Dynasty, I might take Diggs.
So, I mean, because
consider it.
It's you can definitely consider it. They're similar players. Yeah. I mean, Odell, I think, is a better talent, but they're similar players. They're kind of undersized receivers that are great route runners and create separation, at will. the one thing I want to say is like sample size. We don't know what Diggs is going to look like in this offense. I mean, that's why I ranked Julio Jones above DeAndre freaking Hopkins, because again, when people change teams, we just don't know exactly what their volume or what their floor is going to be. It's a guessing game. And for me, we know that Odell saw a shit ton of targets. He just wasn't productive with them last year. If he gets the same amount of targets in this upcoming season, then I still think Odell has the upside to justify taking him over Diggs in a Bills offense that I think is going to be based through running the football, but I also think Cleveland's going to be pretty similar. They're similar players, similar situations.
Yeah.
With competent number 2 options.
Yeah. But then bringing it back to Hollywood Brown again, I'm super excited for him. I mean, he's been talking up in the media that he's ready to ball this season. So if you don't take him in fantasy, like, you're sleeping on him. You should be taking him first. But Nick Bird saying that he believes Hollywood has the chance to be a top 20 guy if he stays healthy. I mean, I think he totally could be a top 20 guy, just again with what you said about the volume that, that Jackson was throwing last year and just the potential for growth there. I do think that, as they work with Lamar Jackson, I don't feel like they're going to tell him to not run as much, but they're going to tell him to run safer. He has to in order to keep his longevity. So maybe it equals a few more targets for Hollywood Brown. It could. He's definitely a player that I'm trying to target in a couple leagues. So we'll see.
If we believe in Lamar Jackson and we believe that last year wasn't a fluke or a flash in the pan or whatever, I believe in Lamar Jackson. Then I believe we'll see more volume and more things to come from Hollywood Brown. He just needs to stay healthy. I think his biggest problem last year, he just wasn't healthy. That's it.
Absolutely. No, and that's what I think we all want. I think for obviously every year we want everyone to stay healthy the whole time. But, you have to keep these injuries in the back of your mind as you're drafting, just because, you don't want to take someone too high and who has the injury risk and then shoot yourself in the foot later because you were counting on them as your wide receiver 2 and then you don't even get them half the season.
Right. So, I feel you.
I mean, I think that's a lot of reason why I feel like I see AJ Green dropping so much in so many leagues. There's so many question marks that have to do with him. Obviously, not just injury wise, but if he's even going to play with the Bengals next season is a huge question mark. So you got to wait on those players for sure.
Well, that's why I put Tyler Boyd where I put him. Otherwise, because if AJ Green's there, AJ Green takes that spot rather than Tyler Boyd. Let's be fair. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. I think so for sure. Lots of great questions this morning, Nick. I love it. Do you have a draft coming up today? I think that this is getting us all excited for our mock draft tomorrow. Again, guys, if you want to join our fantasy focused crew for a mock draft tomorrow morning, please at us in the comments on Twitter, and we will get you in that mock draft. It's going to be at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please join us for that. It'll be a lot of fun. But this is a great question. Do you guys stick to your rankings or do you go with an upside guy with a second running back or wide receiver if your first picks are safer?
I think you have to take it draft by draft because I think I take it draft by draft. In particular, it depends on what's on the board and how you, like you said, if you've built your team safer with your first couple picks, that would probably lean me to take a chance with a higher upside guy later in the draft. If I feel like I have a nice floor with my first 3 or 4 picks or something like that. I mean, it's hard because some people just go straight like floor across the board. Some people love the upside. I've done that shit before where I just want to hit a home run and have a beast of a team and then it ends up flopping. Like,
sure.
I think having that balance though is what I would prefer. So if you went safe earlier, then yeah, go with the upside guy.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, just in the drafts that I've had recently, I tend to go safe with my first 4 picks and then try and take a flyer, something fun for the 5th pick. But yeah, I mean, also again, this year, it's going to be so weird with so many teams not being able to practice. I feel like for me, if I'm building a team for next year, I'm looking for consistency and I'm looking for more veterans than I am anything else that are consistent at that position with that team.
I find it so interesting that I really love this draft class of wide receivers, but I don't, because of some factors when it comes to not being able to get in and get with the offseason programs and reps in person and shit like that, it makes me not feel good about any of these talented rookie wide receivers for fantasy purposes, which is crazy because I think they're really good.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I mean, in a lot of dynasty leagues, I'm taking as many as I can. I'm like going candy shopping for rookies because I feel like they're going to have a lot of potential throughout the seasons as they, develop in the league. This is a great point too, Nick. He thinks that Brandon Cooks could be a more interesting pick than Edelman if you had to say safe guys in the beginning. I agree with that. And I feel like, as we've talked a little bit about Cooks and, obviously his new position with the Texans, I think that he's a veteran receiver, so he knows his job. He's going to be very quick to plug into the system. So I think I'm excited about him. I am a little bit lower on Edelman. I know that obviously he's Julian Edelman. He's a fantastic player and athlete, but I just don't know what to expect out of Stidham. I just don't know what I'm getting. I think I know what I'm getting if I get Cooks. I'm getting someone who is injury prone, concussion prone.
I'm worried about the concussions.
Worried about the injuries, so I'm not taking him super high, but I would probably take Cooks over Edelman. I got Deshaun Watson.
I would take it for that reason. I'm definitely taking Cooks over Edelman. Yeah. I mean, it's close. It's definitely close.
Sure.
But yeah, just for the reason alone of that, Watson needs a number one, and we've seen what a number one looks like. I mean, granted, DeAndre Hopkins is a way better talent than
amazing freak athlete. Love him.
Correct. Yeah, he's a better player than Brandon Cooks will ever be, but he needs a number one.
He does. He absolutely does. So I think that will kind of wrap up our wide receiver rankings for today, guys. If you disagree with any of our ranks, please come at us in the comments. We totally appreciate it. And as these rankings are probably going to change, we'll have to probably have another rankings week where we go through a couple different ones. If you haven't already caught them, we already went through running back ranks and quarterback ranks last week and the week before. So please check those out. If you haven't already hit subscribe on Fantasy Focus YouTube, please do so. And check out those videos. There's a lot of fun stuff. Lots of running back by committee videos the team has broken down. So if you're questioning any of these teams and their backfields, we've got you covered. And also any one-on-one interviews that I've been able to do with a couple fun people in the industry. This week, I got to interview Matthew Berry. That was super, super fun. So please check that out. It's in our YouTube. Shameless plug. I feel no guilt about it. It was super fun. And
you should not feel guilty about that plug.
That was super fun. Oh my God.
That was awesome.
My palms were sweating, like visible drops of sweat. I had so much fun talking to him, though. He's such a cool guy. I've gotten to meet him on a couple occasions, and he's always just been so cordial and so supportive, too. I think that the fantasy community is just very welcoming of each other, so I appreciate him for that. But yeah, guys, again, if you want to join us for a mock draft tomorrow, hit us up on Twitter. You can find Derek Tate at DTater4 on all forms of social. For myself, I'm at Samantha R. Holt on Twitter and at Sam_awesome on Instagram. So please give us a subscribe, follow us, and check us out tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, guys.